Silent movies, or as the people from the 1900s called them, movies. Do they hold up? Are they good? Are they hard to watch? Are they boring? And to answer these questions, I'm going to look at 3 different famous silent movies from 3 different genres. And in doing this, I will determine whether or not silent movies are worth a watch. I watched the most famous science fiction silent movie, A Trip to the Moon. It came out in 1902, and my first thoughts when watching this was, holy shit, this movie is old. And the upside to that is it has a runtime of 15 minutes, so it's actually a really easy watch. Story-wise, it's pretty good. Scientist builds rocket, wants to go to the moon, goes to the moon, fights aliens, comes back home, and that's it. It's pretty standard, but back then I'd imagine people were losing their minds over this. There was only one moment when I was watching this where I was bored. It's when all the scientists sort of get dressed on camera. They're all just getting dressed into their moon traveling gear, and it just goes on. And I'm sort of okay, hurry up, let's get to the moon now. And once they took off in the rocket and got to the moon, I was just impressed. When I read this movie was the beginning of visual effects, I kind of laughed. I was like, what kind of visual effects are they doing in 1902? And then I saw the match cuts they were doing, and the miniatures they were using, and the paintings. I don't know, it blew me away. I was amazed. I was genuinely impressed. I found this one scene really funny, and I don't really understand what was going on, but as soon as they get to the moon, they sort of look around for about 2 seconds, and then they all yawn, and they go to bed. Another thing this movie did really well was they filled the frame. There was moments where there was 15 people in shot, and they made sure everyone got their own space. There was no one blocking each other. There was depth, and the way they moved and acted, it sort of had this childish, imagination to it. I don't know, the body language, they're really flamboyant and throwing their arms everywhere. I guess that's what they do for all silent movies because they can't speak. But it just felt really wholesome, and it felt like a really high budget home movie. But yeah, kind of my general thoughts on the movie. I definitely think it's worth a watch. Just a marvel at the special effects that were done in 1902, and we still use those same filmmaking techniques now, like match cuts, miniatures, paintings, that kind of thing. It's all still used today. So I give Trip to the Moon it's worth a watch. It only goes for 15 minutes, but is it that great? I don't know. I didn't really go away from it thinking, oh, I'm changed. You know what I mean? I'm not that impressed by it. The only thing that really impressed me was the visual effects. The story was a bit meh, but yeah. Now we move on to horror, and the most famous horror silent film of all, Nosferatu. This was a tough watch, not gonna lie. It's an hour and 20-minute slog. There was some actually scary moments, but I felt myself just reaching for my phone. The constant organ playing, it just got old after a while. I'm guessing at the time when it came out, moviegoers were pissing their pants, but I was just bored. I appreciated that it was groundbreaking and the visual effects were great and everything, but horror movies, you've seen them all. You got to do something really disturbing nowadays, and 1920s horror movie, it's not going to hold up. And it's funny, I was thinking how far we've come with vampires. Nosferatu, this horrible, scary looking thing, and then Edward Cullen, Robert Pattinson. Was Nosferatu the Edward Cullen of 1920s? Was 16-year-old girls throwing themselves at Nosferatu? But seriously, not worth a watch, unless you're a movie nerd and you want to say to your friends, I watched Nosferatu and I liked it. I'm glad I watched it so I can say to my movie mates, I watched Nosferatu and I didn't like it, and we can have a discussion about that, but out of 10, not worth a watch. I watched Chaplin's 1921 comedy drama, The Kid, and this movie was so good. I loved it. I told one of my mates to watch it, he loved it as well. Highly recommend. So the story's pretty simple. Mother who was alone leaves her baby boy in a nice car. hoping he will live a better life than the one she can provide. That car gets stolen by some crooks, and the kid ends up in a rough part of town, and Chaplin finds him. When I was watching this, and Chaplin walks out, and he's got his little, penguin walk, and his little mustache, and the clothes he's wearing, trying to be posh, but he's clearly a bum, it just made me giggle. It's funny, but whenever two characters are interacting, I didn't find myself trying to think of what they were saying, but I just understood, and it made it funnier, if that makes sense. I wasn't trying to fill the lack of dialogue with my own dialogue in my head. I was just imagining and watching the conversation without words. It probably seems obvious when you're watching a silent movie, but it just made everything funnier, and I didn't have to hear what they were saying. Through their body language, I knew Chaplin was angry or flirting or confused. I was never lost in the story. I knew every character's relationship and motive, and that was a general fear when I was watching a silent movie. I thought I wouldn't know what was going on, but that's just a testimony to how good Chaplin is as a director. I think what I enjoyed most in this movie was Chaplin and Jackie Cogan, who played the kid, their relationship. When the movie first starts, I just assumed it was a father-son relationship, and it kind of is, but as the movie progresses, you realize Chaplin relies on Jackie as much as Jackie relies on Chaplin. It's a partnership, and this is shown beautifully in the pancake scene. It's a comedic moment, but it shows that they don't look at each other as lesser than each other. Chaplin, being the adult, could easily say, I want more pancakes, I need more pancakes, I'm a bigger person than you. But no, he counts the pancakes out and makes sure they both get an even amount of pancakes. It's so simple, but just that interaction just shows how wholesome and funny and perfectly equal these two are. They are both in a hard situation and need each other to survive. It's much more interesting and has more depth than just a father-son relationship. It gives Jackie great character moments, and when they weren't on screen together and we follow the mother's story arc, I was thinking the entire time, I just want to see more of Jackie and Chaplin's relationship. Now, I understand the mother's story is needed because it actually boosts Jackie and Chaplin's relationship, because you know that this relationship isn't going to last forever. They are going to separate. So every moment they're on screen together, you're so thankful for that. And I can't get over the comedy. There's no jokes, it's all slapstick, it's all physical, but Chaplin and Jackie just nail it. And the visual effects are done not to show off like some movies today, but done to enhance the story. The dream sequence at the end of the movie reinforces how much Chaplin's character cares for Jackie. And when they are reunited at the end of the movie, man, I felt it. Really beautiful movie, 100% worth a watch, highly recommend. And I'm gonna watch more Chaplin movies because they're not just hilarious in the slapstick. They're actually wholesome and have a great story to them. In conclusion, only comedy dramas hold up. I think the rest are pretty outdated. Until next time.